Well, I'm personally very excited for this next presentation. So I want to introduce to everybody Roberto Iglesias. I hope I pronounced that right, but I probably butchered it. He's the principal program manager at Microsoft, and he will be showing you a new way in which you can manage your records in Microsoft 365. Now, Roberto is based in the US, so unfortunately he couldn't be here with us today, but he's been kind enough to pre-record this presentation. And we do have live with us today, John Barrett, Modern Workplace Solution Specialist at Microsoft, and also Aaron Dinage, Microsoft 365 Specialist from Microsoft, who will both be online to answer any questions you may have. So again, if you have any questions, just click the little Q&A tab in the top right-hand side to put in your questions. And with that said, we'll start Roberto's presentation.
Hi, everyone. My name is Roberto Iglesias. I'm a principal product manager with the Microsoft 365 compliance team. I'd like to talk to you today about all the different investments we've been making in records management around Microsoft and how you can use our new records management solution in the Microsoft 365 Compliance Center to meet all your regulatory and record-keeping needs. Let's dive right in. To get started, I always like to frame with what's happening. How are we looking at what's going on around records in the world? We all know that data has been growing at an exponential rate, but it's not just that data has been growing lately that it's challenging. It's the fact that it's growing in many different systems, in many different locations, in many different formats, especially on these unprecedented times that we're living through. And not only is the data growing, but also the amount of regulations that every one of our organizations has to deal with has grown. And we know that that is nothing new. There's some of these regulations that have been around for a while. But what we're seeing around the world is the number of regulations and the number of updates to them has significantly increased. Discovering and governing that data has become much harder with the explosion of data and having to do a lot more governance. Just keeping up with the changes in regulations when we have more than 200 updates a day is impossible for most organizations. And so we understand that that leads to your data being unclassified, ungoverned, and essentially just it's there kind of increasing your liability for not following appropriate record-keeping practices or even leaving you up for a situation where a breach might put you in a very compromising situation. So it is very important to look at how can we do this better and how can we govern, right? Now, we are seeing good signs of the evolution of companies embracing the automation and AI capabilities that we have to offer today in the cloud world to be able to really tackle this problem of classification. It's because of all of these challenges that we've continued and are very committed to investing in the records management space. When you think about some of the challenges customers are facing today that we've been facing with records management for a while, is that we have typically been putting our records in a separate location from where we typically would do collaboration. And so that means that we're having to ask our information workers to move their content to other locations or to use systems that are built on kind of that legacy paper-based approach to managing records. And so we know that our customers are struggling with having many different silos, and each one of those silos not only represents a new system to manage, a new attack vector for potential breaches, but it also creates that inconsistency, and now you have to worry about another place that your information workers have to worry about using and have to train them on them, and now you have to learn about a new system. And so we really want to make sure that we help our customers with this problem. And if we look back a little bit of the history of what we've done with records management, we started at Microsoft with introducing some of the records features like in-place records management and record center in SharePoint 2010, when we were still all on-prem and using the SharePoint server product. Now, for a few years there, I do acknowledge that we didn't do a lot of investments, and we really were focusing around getting our collaboration experience to be great in Microsoft 365. And the area of records management didn't evolve a lot for us. Now, a few years back, we started down this path again and started doubling down on everything that we needed to do for compliance to make sure we helped our customers. And part of that is vital to be records management. So we started with introducing some new capabilities in 2017 with our advanced data governance offering that had some new features. And then in November of 2019 at Ignite, we actually announced the preview of records management solution in the new Microsoft 365 Compliance Center. Over the last year, as we've done that, we've accelerated significantly our investment. And we are very committed to making sure that we are completely satisfying all of those records management needs that every organization around the world has. We've definitely heard your feedback loud and clear that sometimes our approach to records has been very US-centric or might have had some of that connotation around how the US tackles records. But we want to make sure with our Microsoft 365 records management solution that we are enabling everybody across the world to be able to manage and meet their record-keeping obligations. So let's take a look at the different pillars and promises around which we are focusing on Microsoft 365 records management solution. The first pillar is all about being built in. As you know, Microsoft 365 is the best productivity cloud out there. And so the fact that we are built in right into it makes it really easy for your information workers not to have to learn a different system or have to learn how to move content somewhere else. They can just use records management features right from where they're collaborating. So this is super important to us, making sure that we integrate seamlessly into the collaboration experiences that everyone is already very used to. We know that that's where we're producing content today. We know that especially in these unprecedented times, we live and breathe in our Office 365 solution. So we want to make sure that we are helping you by putting all of these features right at the fingertips of your end users and information workers. Now, the second pillar is around intelligence. And we want to make sure that we help you automate your records management journey. And all throughout, we're helping you with intelligent features that leverage artificial intelligence to make this a lot easier. And so we've already started on this journey with all of the abilities to automatically classify content, which we know is one of those key challenges that organizations have around records management. But we will also continue to invest in the rest of the journey from the beginning on defining your retention schedule until the disposition and making sure that you delete and dispose of the content appropriately. And the third one, our third pillar is around defensibility, perhaps the most important one. We know that for you to be able to trust any records management solution, it has to be defensible. You need to be able to prove to your organization and to those regulators or auditors that you are meeting the record-keeping obligations that you have. And so for these, we'll continue to invest to make sure that all of these great features provide the right audit trail, the right proof of disposal, all of those features that are able to let you have confidence in each one of them. Now, let's start with built-in and how we are working around it. As you know, Microsoft 365 is all one very powerful platform and is one big product that can help you. And E5 compliance and our compliance products are no different from that. When you're thinking about records management in Microsoft 365, you're not just getting that records management solution, but you're getting the power of all of our compliance offerings, including communications compliance, e-discovery, insider risk, information protection, all of them. And this is for Microsoft 365 first-party data, as well as third-party data through our pre-built data connectors that create a live connection to your third-party systems and ingest that so that it can actually be used across all of them through our intelligent platform. And so this really allows you to be able to tackle with one product everything that would take you probably 5 or 6 different products if you were not using Microsoft 365, and all of it integrated right into the productivity and collaboration tools that you are already using. And so what that allows us to continue to do by being built in right into the product is that when we imagine the aspect of classifying content, labeling content, we can know that we are actually able to do that labeling right from the experiences that you're already used to using. In this case, for documents, it would be right from your SharePoint document library experience without having to learn a different system or a complicating add-on. You can do it right there. It's built in and not bolt-on governance. Now, and besides being able to label it right from here, now look, you can do it as well. We are also enforcing all of these settings that you want to make sure you are able to protect the integrity of those documents right in the systems that you're used to using. So, for example, if you are able to apply a record label on something because you want it to be non-editable going from that point forward, all of our client applications like Word Online example here will be able to follow that lead and understand that this is a non-editable content and help you with enforcing that, making it really easy to follow. Now, one of the distinctions that we also shipped last year that we're very excited about is the aspect of being able to do what we call records versioning. And so for when you've essentially made that item non-editable, what you can do is then you can come in and unlock that record label and essentially create new versions of it and then lock it back again, all of which those different versions are still being preserved into a safe place and for the amount of time that they had to be preserved in an immutable fashion. And so throughout the life cycle of the content, when you need to preserve that in a non-editable way, you're still able to continue collaboration without hindering productivity. None of that downloading and re-uploading or having to save as and just change the name to be able to make updates or publish a new update to things like operating procedures or anything like that. Additionally, at Ignite, we also announced the introduction of the regulatory records label, an evolution in our immutability journey of editability for those of you that have the need to prevent editing of metadata, make sure that once something has that classification or that label applied, it could never be removed. And so the regulatory records label really is aimed at those either financial, government, or very stringent and advanced immutability scenarios that you might have. And it'll really allow you to evolve the overall records management posture that you have. Now, speaking about our intelligence investments, we have a lot of ways to help you with classification. We know that classifying content is the #1 challenge when it comes to records management. And so besides the obvious approach of being able to manually label, like I showed you earlier, right within the experiences that you're used to, we also have a lot of different ways to provide automated classification. Some of them are being able to define it by a specific location. So a document library, you can set a default label that automatically will apply to all content underneath it, or even do this at a folder level. We also have the ability of doing this based on metadata and properties on the content. If you have created those kind of metadata, you're using content types in SharePoint already, you can use all of that to match it, basically using a KQL query. We also can do just plain keywords and queries. Sometimes there are many of those keywords that are good trigger for automatically classifying, and you can get that list of keywords figured out and enable that automatic classification. Additionally, we have over 100 out-of-the-box sensitive information types, including many for the Australia, New Zealand region. And out of those, they automatically look for things like financial information. They're looking for all those patterns that would indicate there is sensitive information in the content. Now, some of the latest investments we made to go beyond pattern recognition or keyword recognition is to invest in the machine learning and AI-based classification. So from Compliance Center, you have the capability of creating trainable classifiers where we will ship some out of the box classifiers like resume, which you can use today. And you can also train your own custom classifier by giving us sample data that we can then build a model out of. And then you're able to use for automatic classification across Exchange, SharePoint, all different workloads. And so that's a very powerful way of using machine learning for that. Now, if you're a SharePoint heavy user, you would also be very excited about the SharePoint Syntax announcements at this Ignite. So SharePoint Syntax being the first of the products that starts to do some of that AI-based classification within SharePoint. And where it's different is because it's been doing it on SharePoint and based off of a content type, it can also extract some of that data out of the documents. And so not only you would be able to automatically apply a retention label, you're also extracting the data. Like, for example, if it's a contract, you could extract the value of the contract, of which is the other party, what's the contract end date, and use that as all part of the content type. Now, we have a lot of flexibility once you've classified the data on how you want to configure that label. And so we have tons of opportunity there for you to match exactly your processes, whether it's customizing the retention period that you need, what's the level of immutability and editability that you're going to need, if it's just to retain it, or it's a record that you need to make non-editable, or a regulatory record label that once applied can never be removed. All of those are available. And then we also have many actions, including triggering a disposition review if you need to get sign-off before it actually is disposed. And we can have also the ability of triggering that retention period based on events that might be third-party events, like, for example, when an employee leaves the organization. All of these are amazing ways that you can use today to automate your journey and make it a lot more intelligent in records management. Now let's talk about defensibility, because defensibility is the key part that you're going to need to make sure that you have confidence in a records management solution. So there are a few areas that we've invested in here. And by the way, I know that data classification in this part of the world, it often refers to, categorizing for a sensitive perspective, or the classification of how public this is. However, when we talk about data classification, we're talking about our data classification section within Microsoft 365 Compliance Center. Now, the proof of this disposition review that we have available, it's a key part of being able to have that defensibility for you to trust the process, because end users, information workers, as well as records management teams need to feel confident that the content has been disposed following the appropriate processes and sign-offs. And so our built-in disposition review not only lets you collect the sign-offs, lets you do this easily by being able to look at the document contents right from that experience if you have that access to the content. We also have our data classification area in the Compliance Center, which has the Activity Explorer, which lets you see everything that's going on, from labeling to removal of labels. And of course, we have our audit log that is part of the Compliance Center, which has information about every event that has happened around the information and records management, or any other event that's happening around Microsoft 365. So that is a whirlwind tour of everything that we have announced and that's new, and kind of a little bit of our thinking around records management. We are very committed to this space. We are committed to making sure that Microsoft 365 has the best records management capabilities out of any collaboration solution, and you can do it all from our Microsoft 365 records management solution. Now, Of course, I couldn't get into demoing a lot of this in this short period of time. There's a lot more I'd like to show you. So I want to give you some resources. We have some great webinars and recordings that we've produced that allow you to dive deep into the product, as well as we have a session dedicated all around this new document understanding integration with SharePoint syntax that we would invite you to check out. If you're not familiar with everything we just announced at Ignite here in September, make sure to check out our blog. And also, of course, our documentation. We're working on it all the time to make sure that it is very accurate. So feel free to check that out. And last but definitely not least, if you haven't started you haven't started using E5, go ahead and start an E5 compliance trial. Take all of this out for a spin on your tenant, be able to see it, how it looks. And if you have any comments, any feedback, we would love to hear it. We want to know what are the next set of great things you want to see us build. And so please contact us through user voice. We are constantly looking at it, and it is helping us inform our direction of the product. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Awesome. Well, thank you to Roberto for putting that together. We do have some time here for more questions. So just a reminder that Aaron and John from Microsoft will be answering your questions today. Just click the Q&A tab in the top right-hand side to ask your questions. And with that said, I'll turn my webcam off now while we run this Q&A. So thank you very much.